Very nice.
Running on Dunkin'. We're sponsored, right? No, just kidding.
Look for a sponsorship, that would be good, right? Oh my goodness.
So,
It's
how are
been,
you?
yeah, good, good. It was just a crazy day. Like this morning, the reason why I couldn't record this morning was just like the day just kind of like all kind of condensed together. And then I had a new person at 9 o'clock, and I'm using the boathouse as a temporary space right now, and there's no heat. The
Mm,
so well there is heat, but the heater's not
okay.
working. So
Ugh,
so the last time I was there was Sunday, and it was like 47 degrees in the erg room. And
jeez.
so I knew that I needed to get there early so that I could turn the little space heater on to at least try to heat the room up to at least like 55 degrees.
Hmm.
So that at least you could wear your coat in there and not feel cold. So
So it's not like you're not in like the big bay trying to heat that up or
oh,
anything.
no, no,
It's
no,
a
no, no.
smaller
Yeah, it's like
coach's
a
room or something.
smaller, yeah, it's like a 20 by 40 room.
Hmm.
So I mean, but it's a good size, and it's got windows, and then it also has it's like all cinder block. So it doesn't there's no insulation. It just like when the room cools off, it cools off. It doesn't the thermostat doesn't say it gets any lower than 47 degrees, but I don't know if that's just as low as that thermostat goes. It might just like give up at after like a reading of 47 degrees is like, well, it's cold.
Hmm.
So but yeah, like you'll have to remind me what we were going to chat about today.
I don't think we have an agenda. I know. I was thinking I don't have much to talk about other than yeah. Let's see. This week we did the ahead of the Charles virtual race.
Oh,
So we had 10 people on our team that did it.
yeah.
So that was fun. Definitely not as strong as I was last year. Definitely a minute slower than last year, but that's okay. Getting
You
back into
know,
it.
life happens,
Hmm.
and we also did the 4702, and
Oh,
we
good.
thought we were going to have 10 people, but in
Hmm.
reality, I looked at the thing today and only four people had signed up, and I was one of the four, so only three other people submitted their time. So I'm just kind of like, oh well, but
Yeah.
we did it in practice.
Hmm.
So I think that really, really helped me because I went a lot faster than I thought I was going to do. So
Yeah.
that was encouraging. But I
Good.
always think to myself that the erg does kind of benefit being a little bit heavier.
Hmm.
It's a good thing when you're a little bit heavier and you're erging. So I was like,
Hmm.
oh, if I was like really at my fighting weight, I probably wouldn't have done as well as I did because I wanted to get under 20 minutes, and
Mm.
I got a 1959.
Wow,
That's like
Adrian, that's
1 second.
awesome.
Yeah, I really didn't think like in my head I was like, okay, I want to go less than 20 minutes, but I was like, I don't know if this is really gonna happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But
we did it all together too, which was nice, And I felt like I executed what the plan was well. It's just I'm just not at that point where I can really get those splits down to where I feel like they should be. So
I
they are
know.
where they are, but I definitely didn't like go out too hard. I followed the race plan. Pretty much negative splitted, I think. I mean, it was pretty even throughout. The average
Yeah.
was pretty even. So that was good. I felt good about that. I still had some in me at the end, so not
Mhm.
too much though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. By the end, I was like, I'm glad this is almost over. Like I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm like, finish this up. And then because I was coaching, like we had like two newer people who were doing it. And
Hmm.
so like I finished like because I had the basically the men's team was to the left of me, so they had finished, and so I finished, and then there were a bunch of newer ladies who were rowing, and I just didn't want them to like be by themselves. So then I like waited, I like continued to row until the last person rowed. So like finished
That's
her
nice.
piece. So I
Yeah.
yeah, but I wish that like I'd set it as an interval so then I would have caught all that extra rowing that I did.
Oh
I
yeah,
probably
because
stayed on the machine like another like 10 minutes or something like that.
yeah.
So like I was kind of sad that the number cruncher in me is like, oh, all those pulls that don't even count, not even
Hmm.
being registered. I don't know.
So we had one of our rowers is studying. I think she's going to school to become a nurse. So you would have loved this. So she brought her visual aid study guide. She's taking anatomy and physiology.
Hmm.
So she had her big poster size of the human body, all labeled, and
Hmm.
she set it up right in front of her erg, and that's what she did during her piece.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So she was just studying the whole time.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. So it was fun. It was pretty interesting, and we all got a pretty good laugh at it too because, yep, it was the anatomy and physiology of a man all out there for everyone to see with his labels.
Like with lots of nice fun labels on it. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I always feel like this is an interesting time of year for rowing because we kind of get into like this like I don't want to be on the machine and like the river's frozen and it's cold out and like I've just talking about like being on the machine for long periods of time. Like I was working with one of my clients today and he's working up to like just get as many 10 minutes by however many. So he did like 2 by 10. Now he's up to 4 by 10. He's just like, this is boring.
Yeah.
And like how to like bring excitement to these long pieces that you're doing for endurance,
Mhm.
and then also kind of like how do you manage like your sprint work like in preparation for for doing the 1,000 meter or doing the 2K because there has to be like a good balance between like the amount of like steady state that you're doing versus like like eventually, like one coach always would say, eventually you have to go fast. Like you have to,
Yeah.
in order to practice, like in order to be good at going fast, eventually you
Hmm.
have to go fast. And I feel like a lot of people like there's like this disconnect between the idea of like a lot of people understand they need to do all those long pieces, but then
Hmm.
again, sometimes you just have to go fast on the machine. And then like what's beneficial?
Hmm.
Like I had some athletes doing like they were doing like 20-second I think they did 20 by 20 seconds or something like that. So these
Oh,
little
wow.
short pieces
Hmm.
and they're doing them at like 38 and 40 and I'm kind of like I don't know if that would be necessarily my choice as a coach. Like, I mean, that might be one fun workout to kind of
Hmm.
work on. Like, I mean, because 20 seconds, I mean, that's kind of like first five, first 10, first 15. So kind of like working on how do you build up, like if anything, as a coach, I would set it up as how do you build up and settle? Like
Hmm.
within those first 5, 10, 20 strokes, whatever time you'd set that for if I did the math right on it, would it be? I wonder. I don't know the math right off the top of my head. If 20 seconds is that first 10 strokes, maybe? I don't know. If
Yeah, I
if
think
you're
it would
at
be
a if
close.
you're
I'm
at a
trying.
30, you're doing 30 strokes per minute.
Hmm.
And at 30 seconds, that would be 15 strokes, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so if you did so that would be first 17 strokes or 18 strokes. So, like, as a coaching tool, how I would use that is potentially to teach the kids how to go up and settle, up
Hmm.
and settle. Like, I would use that as the kind of the point of that workout. But the kids who I had worked with, they were just basically just kind of going all out for
For
like
all of them? Or
for
so you're
all for
saying,
all of them, for all 20 of them, just going like straight up, just like, balls to the wall kind of like that kind of thing. And I was like, as a coaching tool, I'm like, I mean, like as a physiological tool, I guess, yeah, I mean, you're working on like, like depleting your glycogen stores, like I'm like trying to figure out like physiologically, like having a workout like that,
hmm,
what will it teach? Because I was kind of think of like you want to make sure that you're picking a workout that teaches something that's going to be relevant to the 2K or
yeah.
relevant to being out on the water doing that 1,500 for high schoolers. Like, so I guess we did first 20 seconds. I guess what I would do with that is, like I said, the first five, teaching people how to go up and settle, up and settle. Like that would be my
So
point of that workout.
So you're saying the first five strokes or the first five set of 20 strokes or 20 seconds?
I would do it for every single, if you were gonna do, I wouldn't do 20 rounds either. Like I would pick
Oh, okay.
something else. I'd probably do maybe, I don't know, maybe I'd do 10 rounds of it.
Hmm.
And those 20 seconds, I would do like, your three quarters, half, three quarters, length and length, and whatever start you're gonna use.
Hmm.
And then be really particular about nailing stroke 6 and 7 being
Hmm.
your split.
Hmm.
Like that's how I would use that workout as like a teaching tool. Like
Hmm.
so then you would get by 10 of them you'd probably be able to nail it. Like so that every single one would you would get the machine moving and get to your number. Get the machine
Hmm.
moving, get to your number. So like so that you would learn that, not necessarily just go all out and see what you can get. I mean, that's more like a
Yeah.
peak power test. So
Hmm.
I guess you could, if you were going for taking a look at everybody's just like physiology,
Hmm.
like you could use that practice as a way to look at someone's peak power. So, say you've taken peak power at the beginning of the season. So, peak power is if you look up on the US rowing website, they have like a whole warm up you're supposed to do, and then you set the machine for the 20 seconds, but you're really only concerned about 10 seconds. So I always let people like get the machine moving for the first 5 seconds, and then the middle 10 seconds, they're looking for the very strongest stroke you could possibly take. It's not about the average, it's about one really strong stroke. And that's
Hmm.
like your peak power. So imagine peak power is sort of like your max lift,
Hmm.
like that idea. So I guess you could use that as a workout to like track people's peak power.
Hmm.
So if you've already taken peak power at the beginning of the season, that might be a workout where you're looking for that peak power. But the tough thing about that is that you would then need the readout from all of those to find the highest stroke because it won't show up on the screen. It's not something you can pull from the screen
Yeah.
immediately. So you'd need a way to like push the data and it would seem like a lot of work and it wouldn't be a lot of like instant information. It wouldn't be a lot of instant feedback I could give to the athletes like right there. So
And is it always going to be like your best stroke will be your lowest split, or is it measured only by watts? Or, I mean,
so
I would
the
assume it
so
would, yeah.
it'll be your lowest split slash
Hmm.
it'll be your highest watts.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so like if you were gonna do like peak power is like a really great way to kind of like create like a ceiling. So like it tells you what your like overall strength, like what's the highest thing you can push on the machine. And
Hmm.
from that you can create like this physiology curve that can kind of,
Hmm.
well, actually kind of goes like that. A physiology curve where you can figure out what all the other values should be.
Hmm.
And then sometimes it can help you find holes in your training. So if you do the peak power, the 1 minute test, the 6K, 2K, 6K, and then an hour long test, you can graph all those out. And it's supposed to follow this nice, neat curve so that each of those is a certain percentage of your physiology. So, but I mean, like I said, to do that particular workout, like I think the value add would be teaching people how to get through the first 5 stroke and then directly onto their number that they want for their 2K or for their
Yeah.
1K too.
Yeah.
But I did a 1K today, not I, but my one of my
Okay.
clients did a 1K today, to kind of help determine what he's gonna do next.
Hmm.
For because we've got the Brighton Burn, which is the first weekend in March, and then we have Shamrock Row, which is second weekend in March. So um he wanted to see kind of like what his number is because he hasn't been training as much. He wanted to try to figure out, can he go as fast as he went last year? And he's like, no, I really can't. But what was interesting today is that like at um about like 600 meters in, like I could see like the change in his rowing stroke.
Hmm.
The fatigue set in, the gas was coming out of what he was doing. And I always feel like that's really great information.
Hmm.
Like, especially because the 1K is not a 2K. Like a 1K, you can wrap your mind around and be like, oh, it's only going to be like about 4-ish minutes. Like
Hmm.
I can practice this. I can do a practice one before I do the actual one without like killing myself. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Like
Yeah.
if you have a 1K or a 2K test, do you practice it before you actually do it?
Ooh, well, I think there would be a huge difference. Like I don't know. I think I could probably mentally get myself through a 1K much better. Obviously, it's half as much as a 2K. Um, a 2K is it's just that number that you've had, that we've had since we started rowing. It's just, how bad that third 500 is, and it seems like it's never going to get there. And then once it's there, you're just like, mentally trying to get through it. Um, and then I feel like, the way we're training, we have practice 3 days a week, which, most of us try to get there all 3 days, but we don't always get there. I try to do stuff on my off days. I'm not always good about it. I'm much better when it's nicer out in the winter. I'm just all about hibernating and like I don't want to be outside and
I
getting the dog
know.
out for a short walk is like, you know, my
Hmm.
outdoor time and sometimes I can get on the erg on off days, but yeah, so I think physically, it's just when you're not maybe training to the point where you're like ready to do a 2K, I think I could probably get through a 1K much better. I'm actually tempted to do one today, but we have practice today, so we'll see what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing today. Hannah is doing a 1K though. She was telling me before she went to practice, so they know what their workouts are almost a day ahead of time. And she's doing three 10-minute pieces and then a 1K. So kind of a mix, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I mean, like the 3 10 minutes having the opportunity to just kind of like get some steady state in, to really turn over, to do technique work, and then to do the 1K after that. And
Mhm.
I think 1K at a 24 is like a classic 2K predictor. So
Mm,
it's like you can take that score and then be able to translate into like what you could do for a
mhm,
2K. So I'm like, maybe I'll do one of those and see
Okay.
and see what the number is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's always so the 2K has and I tell the kids, I'm like, this is a test of your physiology. This is a test of your upward. I mean, it's a VO2 max test. I mean, it's
Yeah.
basically, it tells quite a bit about, your maximum oxygen transport. And so it's
Mhm.
gonna be painful. There's gonna be
Yeah.
a moment where you're not necessarily gonna feel so great doing this activity. But I think we're in this season right now where it's
Mhm.
like you just get on the erg and you just have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think erging with people definitely helps.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm just glad to get to practice and just be there. And we're doing a lot on the bike ergs too. So we do
Ooh.
that. And then we do some lifting too. So yeah, it's been interesting. We did a couple of what did we do the other day? We did four 1,000 meters, I think. I think that's what we did on the bike. Um, and that was after we erged. And we did it. So we had the whole group doing the erg piece, which is really not like anything organized or timed. I think the coach had it in their head how they wanted to do it, but we didn't know. It wasn't like something we programmed. He really is trying to get us to row better, like technique wise, just, focusing and he'll go around, he'll point things out. And we're just really doing like a lot of front end progression stuff. And then he just kind of tells us like, all right, keep going until we have two more strokes, and then that's it. So we're just kind of flying blind for the rowing, but it's usually maybe a little more than 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And then we go down and we break up into two groups just because of the amount of people. We only have so many bikes.
Mhm.
And one group will do the lift and other people will do the bike erg. And yeah, you realize that you want to be doing that bike erg first because it's when he does those kinds of workouts, you're tired after that.
Yeah.
Those like shorter, more intense pieces. And it's all your legs too. So sometimes, at the beginning when we started using them, I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice, It's kind
Mhm.
of just like, just one, just biking, but I don't love sitting on a bike seat either, so that's kind of like the
Yeah.
drawback. But we're not usually on for too long. But it's a good workout and
Oh
you
yeah.
know, you feel it and yeah. So
Yeah.
your upper body
I've
gets a
got
break, but
I've got two bike ergs that I've
Mhm.
picked up for my new gym, and
Nice.
right now they're at my house, so
Yeah.
I've been using them. And what I find is like I wish that the on the bike erg, I wish the seat came forward just a little bit more, or the handlebars came back just a little bit more.
Hmm.
And somebody had told me that you can take the handlebar and then like flip it around, like flip it over. So then the like the horns of it will face back towards you, which will actually make you feel a little bit closer to it. But I haven't
Hmm.
done that with one of mine yet, just to kind of see how it works. But
Yeah.
I love the fact that it kind of translates to it speaks our language,
Yeah.
which is nice. So that like you're like, okay, so if I'm pushing a 210, like it's an equivalent
Yeah.
210 on the erg. Of course, I do feel like between the regular erg, because I'm not going to call it a row erg. I just
Yeah.
can't. Uh,
I know.
I just can't do it. It's an erg, and then
Hmm.
and then there's the bike erg, and then there's ski erg.
Hmm.
But like between the erg and the bike, do you feel like you're working harder on one versus the other? Do you feel like the bike's? I feel like the bike's a little bit harder to get to the numbers than it is on the erg, but maybe it's just my comfort with rowing on the erg.
I do think that, and I wonder if it's just because it's only your legs, right? You're
Yeah.
only using your leg strength. So it could have to do with how strong your legs are,
Hmm.
compared to your upper body. But I do find that, and it's weird because at first it doesn't feel that way.
Hmm.
You know, like
Yeah.
if you take a few strokes and you get that split down, you're like, oh, that was easy. And then you're like, whoa, I can't hold this. And then, you know, you're having to look at your well, it's not strokes per minute, but what is it called? I don't know. Basically the
Yeah,
strokes per
like
minute.
yeah, I think it's like
Revolutions.
RPMs. Yeah, it does RPMs,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
still haven't like connected the RPMs to like it's like I want to look up at the screen and see how what my strokes per minute is. I'm like, oh, it's not that. It's something else.
Yeah,
But
and just having those mental like tricks to like count strokes. I'm trying to get used to like how many and like just counting on the down, you know, like when one foot goes down, but it's still
Mhm.
way more than a stroke. So it's, you know,
Yeah.
you're like, because I don't always like to lock onto the screen. So I like even on the the row erg, I
Mhm.
like to take a break from the screen and just count out like, all right, I'm not going to look at the screen for maybe 20 strokes and then come back to it later so that I don't have to think about it. And then with the bike, I'll do that and I'll do 20, you know, every time my right foot goes down and then you're like, oh, that's it. Because it's so fast, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more counting. Anyway, it's just it's funny how we, you know, you try to translate it, but it doesn't always work.
Do you guys
But
have a
it's
ski erg there?
do we have a what?
A,
Ski or
a ski erg.
no, we don't have one of those.
The CrossFit gym that I was working out of had a ski erg, and
Hmm.
I thought the ski erg was probably the most difficult out of the three. Like
Is that
it
just
must
upper
be
body?
it no, well it's like a cross country skiing kind of
Hmm.
movement. Like you kind of pull the handles down, but you're supposed to use like almost like use like your quads and your like trunk to help with that push down. So
Okay.
it's almost like there's resistance squatting down versus like the resistance squatting up. So that's what's made it a little bit different. Um, I mean, it wasn't it wasn't as fun.
Hmm.
Like but maybe it's just because I'm just not used to the movement and just like it. But I would try to what I would do is the CrossFitters always did kind of like these round robin kind of setups.
Hmm.
So they might do like 500 meters on the bike, 500 meters on the erg, and then 500 meters on the ski erg, and then in between it they might do some type of like squat, deadlift, and just kind of round robin it. So
Hmm.
when I tried those that out, like it wasn't on the top of my list as something like, ooh, I really love this. And like
Hmm.
even as I kind of think about what I'm gonna put in my new gym, I'm kind of like, I don't even know if I'm gonna get a ski erg. I mean, it was nice to like have my clients try it
Hmm.
out and more of a novelty than anything else. But there's definitely people who like who swear by it, like who.
Hmm.
really love it. And again, the translation between if this is what I'm doing on the erg and now I'm doing this on the ski erg, I'm getting the same value out of it or
Hmm.
same energy output out of it. So
I don't know if I feel it sounds like something that you wouldn't be able to do for a really long time.
no, I couldn't imagine doing like a 2K on a skier.
Yeah.
Forget it. Like, I mean, and or like, I don't know if there's people out there. I mean, I'm sure there are because
Hmm.
there's all sorts of crazy, really loving to exercise people. And like, I'm sure there's somebody who's done 40 minutes on a skier, but I just
Mm-mm.
couldn't imagine it. I mean, I could do 40 minutes on the biker, but like, oh, my butt would be numb. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
but 40 minutes on the erg, yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
totally could do that.
yeah.
So, yeah.
There was a kid that was home. He's a freshman in college, and he rode for the team last year. He was home over break, and he did 75,000 meters on the bike erg. And I'm just all I could think of was how much that would hurt
Oh my
in so
gosh.
many ways, but
In so
just
many
sitting
ways.
on it specifically.
Because it's a tiny seat. I mean, like
Yeah,
but I guess there's sort of like, I mean, it depends on like the ergonomics of that
yeah.
particular seat and what kind of pressure it's putting onto your pelvic area. Like I mean, some people can really tolerate like the whole bike seat thing. I'm
Yeah.
not one of those people. So like just doing like either like little 1,000 meters or like even because I mean, because 1,000 meter would equal like a 500 on the
Hmm.
erg. So like that, like something in that range, more of kind of like a sprint or something just to keep my heart rate up as I'm like, here, what I use it for is keeping my heart rate up as I'm doing my lifting.
Hmm.
So like I'll get on the bike erg for 1,000 meters. I'll do like a set of squats, deadlift, lunge, overhead press, bicep curl, tricep extension, and I think pull up is the last one that I do, and then I hop back on the bike and do another 1,000 meters, and then I'll round robin that, and so I'll use it that way. But I haven't done any long like steady state style
Hmm.
things on it. But yeah, it's
Now,
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
what's the advantage of doing that and alternating like that? You said to keep your heart rate up, but is it
I
like
just
proven to be better or something?
I just like doing it that way.
Hmm.
Like I just feel like if I just do straight up lifting.
Hmm.
I get bored. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe it's from like we've been trained to do all this cardio and like you're
Hmm.
moving and you're exercise. You're like I need a little bit of that. Otherwise, I feel like
Hmm.
I'm not doing anything. I don't like I don't lift like aggressively enough that my heart rate is like feeling like I'm like in like I don't even know if I get into zone 2 or 3. I mean
Hmm.
with doing the bike in between, I can at least kind of peak my heart rate up into zone 3 and then it
Hmm.
might drop back down into zone 1 or 2 while I'm like doing the lifting and then I get back on the bike. So I'm just trying to get the sweat going.
Yeah.
I feel like when I do like my 3 sets of those exercises,
Hmm.
I by the end I barely break a sweat, so maybe I need to lift more intensely. Well, I mean, like when you're lifting by yourself in your basement, there's just no
Yeah.
yeah, there's no competitive juice to it. So I don't feel like I work up a sweat unless I put the bike or sometimes I erg in between. So I'll just like do 1,000 meters. I'll set the screen for the undefined rest.
Hmm.
And so then I'll hop off the erg, do whatever lifting and then get back on the erg to do in between. So I like that. I want it like after I've done a workout I want to like sweat a little bit. I want to feel like I've
Yeah.
done something.
Have
um
have have you ever done any of those erg videos on YouTube? Like I think it's is it dark horse rowing or anything like that?
I haven't done any of
No?
those. I should try them out and take a look and see what other people are doing. I need to make some videos. There's so much,
Yeah, that would
I
be good.
do. Well, I do a morning class on Wednesdays, and then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, at least one of these Wednesdays, I need to record what we're going through during the class. Um,
Hmm.
but I've done, I think it's called As the Flywheel Spins.
Oh, I'll have
It's
to
a
look for that one.
podcast. Yeah, it's a podcast that C2 makes. And they
Oh,
have,
neat.
yeah, and so they have different workouts. Like they have a row erg one. Ugh, row erg. They have the bike erg, and then they have the ski erg. And
Hmm.
so they're specific, and usually like in the show notes, it'll tell you exactly what the workout is. And I often, I will admit, I often go in there and kind of cheat and see what the workouts are and see if I like them, and then
Hmm.
I'll add them as an option as something I'll do in my class. So I like that one. That's the one podcast or like exercise thing that I've done. I have people who love the Hydro Row group, and
Hmm.
like because I think you can get the Hydro, I think you can get the app and you can still play the videos but use whatever machine you have.
Hmm.
But I have a lot of people who enjoy that machine. It just has a different feel to me. I just and my
Yeah.
brother-in-law has one, so I've gotten on it quite a bit when I was visiting my sister. But um, yeah, it's not. I mean, I don't know.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, it's hard to change once you've been on the concept too. I agree. We tried them at the Head of Charles that one year that we did it, and we tried the Hydro, and there was another couple different companies that were there, and yeah, they all have their own feel to it.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
C2 just came back out with the they don't call it the Dino, but
Yeah,
it's
you said yeah.
but the strength row.
Uh-huh.
I think strength row is what it's called. So I haven't, I haven't played around with it a bunch. I did try it when I was at the Charles this past year, and it was fun. I mean, eventually if C2 wants to lend me one, that'd be great. I'll do some work with my clients with it. But or I might have to purchase one at one point or another. Because it really would be great to because it does do like leg press, chest pull, um, I forget what else. There's a couple other things that it tests, and which would be great, if especially if they had some numbers on just like return to sport and like what base strength you should have before you start getting out there to row. Like
Hmm.
um I'll keep you posted on that. I have
Yeah.
another PT that I'm talking to, and she was going to get together with some other PTs, and we are going to talk about return to row and how we can do it more efficiently. And there are like most sports have like numbers or like guidelines or like base guidelines for strength in order to return after an injury. I'm not going to say rowing doesn't because maybe I just don't, I'm not privy to all that information, and that's what I'm hoping to learn more about. A lot of times when I'm returning someone to row, really the key is pain-free. Like, are
Hmm.
we able to move through these motions pain-free? And that's a lot of times, where we kind of make that decision that they can return to row. But there can be this huge gap between being pain-free and ready to practice. Because those are
Hmm.
two very, very different things. And so a lot of times when I return people to row, I get them in my boat with me and like, can we go out for 2 hours on the water and can you row? Because
Hmm.
that's really what you need during a practice. You need to at least be able to row for an hour. So you can
Hmm.
row out or you can row back. Maybe if there's an alternate or somebody you can switch out with. But having that be more of a science and
Hmm.
getting people because that's really the hardest part. Like you can be feeling better, but can you tolerate practice? Like whether it's fatigue or it's actual pain that it kicks up. So yeah, so we're gonna have some discussions on that. So I'll keep you posted if I find out anything exciting good. So
Sure.
I can't
Yeah, what
believe
do you think? Oh,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
we're already like just a couple minutes left. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
What was your question?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you think is the most common injury that rowers get?
I think the one that comes up most often is back pain.
Yeah, I would
Like
agree.
serious rowers, people who like are really, really training, it tends to be like rib, like maybe like
Mm,
rib or it could be back. But the average Joe, back pain.
back pain.
And my biggest thing right now is like I'm on this high, like on this pedestal or like on this thing about overcompression. Like I think
Mm,
coaches let over compression go. And the problem with it is when you have over compression, so I'm talking about like knee beyond ankle, so shin is past perpendicular to the ground. We all like to see shin perpendicular to the ground when you're at the catch. If you're going past that, that can create a couple different things depending on how high your feet are to your seat. And we've talked about this before, people getting into too small of a distance between their seat and their heel of their ankle. And when you get really tight into that compressed position, what it does is it tips the pelvis back. And then you're already leaning forward. So,
Mm,
like the additional flexion that you need in order to be in that position comes from your low back. And a lot of times when someone gets into that tight position, their body's too far forward too. So then being like you're over compressed, your body's too far forward. And so what you have to do at the catch is you have to sit up to get
mm,
back in a position where you can actually push the machine away from you. And
mm,
it's that micro sit up every stroke. So you're getting forward, you have to sit up and then push. And then like then people start thinking, oh, I'm opening early. And I'm like, you're not opening early. What you're doing is you're over compressed.
mm,
So you have to open to actually drive back into the finish because if
mm,
you didn't, your body wouldn't be in an efficient position to like basically to deadlift the catch. And I always talk
mm,
about how like the catch is deadlift, it's not squat. So if you're in a squat position, you're going to, or you're over compressed deadlift position, you're going to move into a position where you can actually push. Or if you're like over compressed, there's a person who's over compressed but is sitting upright. And when they push, they won't necessarily have back pain because they're not going to move their back when they push. But what will happen is they'll hit a ceiling. Like they can only go so fast. Like everybody else around them will be going infinitely faster than them. They don't understand why their scores are so high. And the reason is that because they're not deadlifting. So everybody else is deadlifting, which is like you can deadlift way more than you can squat. So if you're squatting every single catch, you're never going to be fast. Like you're always going to be kind of like at the ceiling. So you have to get into this position. But over compression can lead to low back pain, and
mm.
repetitive over compression under pressure will definitely lead to back pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my so I couldn't think of the word soapbox. Are you stepping on as a
Soapbox.
soapbox about
Sure.
something? Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't think of the word at the beginning. But yeah, that and I mean a lot of my older rowers, like people who get into rowing later, shoulder
Shoulder.
becomes an issue.
Hmm.
A lot of times people will get up to the catch and they'll do one of these
Hmm.
every single catch. So this like push forward, push back kind of thing, especially with like shoulder rise too. Yeah. Neck, shoulder, just
Next. Yeah.
really be achy up there.
What
Um,
about like tendonitis or anything from feathering?
Wrist, yeah,
Yeah.
wrist and hand.
Hmm.
A lot of times when people have the tendonitis or issues with their wrist, forearm, hand, I'm like, what hand do you hold your phone with? Because a lot
Oh,
of times it's the hand that they're using with their phone, and the phone is like the opposite, not the opposite, but it's kind of like it's like wrist up and fingers flexed, whereas like rowing is wrist down, fingers flexed. And like just changing that position can cause a lot of irritation if the muscles are already really short. So,
wow.
so
Never thought of
yeah.
that. Let me see. I think I hold my phone with my right hand, which is kind of interesting because I'm a lefty.
Oh, really?
So probably
Oh,
because phones are, maybe it's just a right-handed world.
yeah. I didn't know you were a lefty.
I am. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hmm. Hannah is too.
Oh,
Yep. We have 50% in our house.
wow. Well, that's like, is that just like the world? Like, isn't aren't most people like half of, or is it like a higher percentage of right-handed people?
Oh, yeah. I think it's between 10 and 20% are lefty, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're a
Yeah.
lot more special
A
than you
lot
thought.
more special. We're gonna have to do a whole show on like being a lefty and rowing. Like maybe like, some
Yeah.
things that we just don't notice that are kind of still right hand dominant in rowing.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I always thought, I mean, obviously you can't have a boat that needs to have half and half if 20% of the population row,
Hmm.
that if you're basing it on what side you are. But I did always find, so I was originally a port. We were talking about this with Hannah because she definitely rows port and that's what she's more comfortable with. But I know that's what I started with. And then, you just have to go, it's almost like you have to go through one season where you only row starboard
Hmm.
to the point where at the end of the season, you're like, wow, I don't know what I am anymore. Like that really does force you to be almost like either way because I really feel comfortable on either side. Even now, if I do the whole season, I did a lot of stroking. Over the summer, I was stroke seat a lot, so I was mostly port. But then I'd get into the starboard side, I'd be seven or something, and I'd be like, "Oh, this feels good too." And that's the side where, you're doing more movement because that's the feathering hand.
Mhm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Should start inviting some people to join us.
Yes, I think
Okay.
that that would be amazing. And if anyone who's
Yeah.
listening wants to join us, I mean, as long as you're a rower or
Hmm.
rowing adjacent, I mean, even like a rowing parent would be, an interesting idea to, or an interesting person to speak to. So, yeah, let's start. We'll start putting the feelers out
Okay.
and see who's interested in joining us.
All
So
right. That sounds good. I am going to reach out to a couple people and see if we can get someone for our next recording.
that would be amazing. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. Very cool. Well, it was great chatting with you today,
Yeah,
and
you too.
we'll talk to everybody soon.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.